Mario sports games. I've talked about my favorite one. I've talked about the most forgotten one. But now I want to look at the most underrated one. Or series, rather. I mean, I guess it's a series. There was only like 2 games made of this sport. And while many of the Mario sports games are getting like these mini revivals on Switch with varying results, this series hasn't got a new entry since 2008 on the Wii. These are the Mario baseball games. There was one for the GameCube and one for the Wii. So today, I want to talk about both of these games, so then maybe you guys can see why these are some of my favorite Mario sports games. And I think they're games a lot of people missed out on. And then, after we looked at both, I'll tell you which game I like better, because these two are very similar in a lot of ways. Like, both of these games were developed by Namco, you know, the guys who made Pac-Man, and then it was published by Nintendo. The first one, Mario Superstar Baseball, came out in the summer of 2005. And oddly enough, Mario Strikers came out a few months later in the Christmas season of that same year. So possibly Strikers overshadowed this game at the time, but who knows. But I think there's only one way to tell for sure, and that's by popping this game in a good old GameCube. So let's check it out. All the Mario sports games on the GameCube started with these opening cutscenes, and this one is no different, and this one is awesome. All the characters are acting like their typical selves, and it even tells a little story. Bowser is just looking for a challenger, so all the other characters go through a training montage. Plus, it has this original sung track that plays during it. All of this just reminds me of one of those corny montages in like mid-2000s family movies. All this really gets you pumped up to play some baseball here, and it shows you a little glimpse of the charm that this game has. Then we get to the title screen, which looks like the ball is phasing right through the bat, so let's skip that and then we can choose a mode. Okay, so like these Mario sports games tend to go, this is baseball, but with a Mario twist this time. Basically, the pitcher can control the speed and the direction of the pitch, and then the batter has to move and adjust accordingly so the ball lands in the center of his bat. And you'll hit the ball the hardest that way. You can also hold A first to like charge up your hits, and this obviously gives you a more powerful hit. This actually turns into like a cool little game of reading your opponent in what kind of pitch you think they'll do. And then you get to control all the other players in the outfield to, you know, catch, throw, pass between teammates to get the batter out. But yada yada, you guys know about the whole baseball ordeal here, and it plays out very well this game. But what about the more wacky elements here? Well, they mostly come from the characters' movesets this time. So the captain of the teams, i.e. like the main Mario characters, can all perform a super shot. This is their like super move that they can do when they are pitching or batting. And it will turn the ball into something else depending on the character. You know, like Mario's got a super fireball, Wario's got a dummy ball, making it harder to catch, or DK can pitch a curved banana ball. But slow down there, you can't just use these moves all willy-nilly now. Because each time you use it, it consumes star power, and you only have a limited amount of this. But you can earn star power back in certain moments of the game too. This is a really good balancing feature, so people don't just always use their special shots. Also, in these videos, I talk about a bunch of different video game topics, and I will usually try and add some sort of special effects into the mix, because I'm into that kind of stuff. So if that sort of thing interests you, then subscribe to the channel, because I have plenty of ideas for the future. The other crazier elements in this game come from the fields themselves. What do you expect, some regular field? Psst! Nah, let's play in a jungle with barrels that fly around or alligators that bite you in the outfield. Or how about let's play in the gardens right in front of Peach's castle, which makes it a lot harder to get home runs in front of you because, well, there's a castle in the way. And there's just random hidden blocks here too. Honestly, the fields in this game all really added to the craziness and were all enjoyable to play on. And then we get to the character roster of this game, and oh, what a selection that this ever is. Look at all these guys to choose from. There's all the main Mario characters like Mario, Peach, Bowser, or Wario. But then there's so many obscure characters too, like the Nokis, Monty Mole, Dixie Kong, and Toadsworth. It's just really cool having all these different options to build your team with. And team building is actually a really important and fun aspect of this game since all the characters have 4 unique stats. You know, there's stuff like how hard they can bat, how good their pitch is, how fast they are, and how good they are in the field. Plus, all these characters have some sort of special feature to them. Like the characters with wings can jump a lot higher, the monkey characters can all clamber on the outer field walls so they can intercept home runs a lot easier, and then Goomba can randomly run faster while holding the ball for some reason. All these stats though actually make this game very strategic in how you build your team, since each of the characters excels in a different area and they all have certain flaws. Like you'd probably want some fast characters in the outfield so they can run quicker to get the balls, but most of those fast characters can't hit that hard on bat, so you'll need to balance this by having some strong batters to complement the other teammates. But then what makes this even more strategic is the chemistry feature. See, certain characters have chemistry with one another, indicated by these pink music notes, which makes them throw the ball a lot quicker between these characters. And these are characters that canonically would work better together, like for example Mario and Luigi, or DK and Diddy Kong. You can also have negative chemistry too with players that I guess hate each other, so they'll throw less accurately to these types of players. All this just causes the game to have a lot of depth to it, allowing for so much replayability and makes it really fun to learn and master these mechanics. There is even an entire esports community for this game. That's how complicated the mechanics can get. This isn't just a simple party game. The core gameplay, the foundation of this game, is really great. But what puts this game even above that is all the different wacky modes that are included to spice up the normal baseball gameplay. Let's start with Challenge, basically the single player mode of this game. This is honestly an awesome little story mode. Basically, Bowser is not kidnapping Peach or destroying the Mushroom Kingdom this time. Nah, he's just really good at baseball and is acting cocky towards the other teams. Talk about insulting. Psst, I know, right? So then you have to choose one of 5 teams that are based on, I guess, the most popular Mario characters. And then you have to beat all the other teams using your team of choice, which opens up the final baseball match against the Bowser team. That's the simplified version, but there's a lot more to it than just that. First of all, the teams are all pre-made based on who the character's captain would be associated with in the Mario universe. Like Mario's team has Luigi plus the Nokis and Piantas from Mario Sunshine. Yoshi has Birdo, the Shy Guys, and Baby Mario and Luigi from Yoshi's Story. And Peach literally just has a whole Toad army at her disposal. You can battle the teams in any order, but you need to win against all of them first before challenging Bowser. And it's not just a boring challenger selection screen, but you actually have to walk over to their home field and talk to them personally in this cool little hub world. Each of the players are in the areas of the map where their respective games take place. Yoshi is on his island, DK of course is in a jungle, and Wario, okay fine, he's just in the desert for some reason. Man, I just love this little map you get to walk around in. And then there's minigame challenges you get to play that earn you coins to spend on certain upgrades that will help you during the games. Team building is actually another important part of this mode too. Team building? What? I thought the teams were pre-selected here. Yes, that is true, but since that is the case, you can actually unlock other characters here that you can then put on your team. And these are done by completing these mini challenges that appear in the matches. So if you're having trouble facing a certain team, well then maybe go back and unlock other characters to add to your roster. And yeah, that's the gist of it. This is a fun mode in this game, and honestly might be one of the strongest single player modes in a Mario sports game. But let's move on to what else this game has to offer, because the next mode here is called Toy Field, and this is one mode that I used to spend hours on with friends. So basically, everyone is trying to get the most coins in a certain amount of turns. And by turns, they mean amount of batters. So similar format to Mario Party if you think about it. The main way to earn coins is by batting. So as you can see, there's all these big glowy buttons on the field this time. So different ones will essentially just give you a different amount of coins in most cases. First, the batter is randomly selected at the start. The pitcher will also then be decided, and the other two players will be in the outfield. After the batter hits the ball, everyone is basically trying to run to it as quickly as they can, since the person who gets the ball will be the next up to bat. But the ball will disappear fairly quickly once it stops moving, so this always then creates a frantic rush to the ball, which is always fun. Oh yeah, and if the ball disappears, the batter gets to go again, so there's even more of an incentive to hit the ball away from everyone. But what's cool about this mode is that you can have 4 players playing and everyone will always be doing something at any time. Unlike normal baseball, where there's a lot more waiting around for your turn. I mean, look, you can just kind of freak out and move around while the person is pitching. Overall, this mode was always a good time. Okay, and then the final main thing to do in this game here is to play the collection of minigames that it comes with. And honestly, they're alright. They're really hit or miss. No pun intended, I swear. There are some good ones, like Bob-omb Derby, where the goal is to focus on getting consecutive home runs to get more points. Basically, a test of timing when you're batting. Or Wall Ball is probably my favorite one. This is a pitching type game where you have to control how hard you pitch to break specific walls. You want to aim for the music note wall though, for the most points, and avoid breaking the Bowser wall, which loses you points. So it's not just pitching as hard as you can most of the time, there's strategy to it. But then there's ones like this barrel game, where I honestly have no idea how to aim my ball correctly, it just kinda goes wherever it feels like. Still though, these minigames are a great feature to also include in this game. But besides all those actual features, one thing I just love about this game is its charm. Take the characters, for example. All their batting animations, introductions, and celebrations all have great animations, and they all act exactly like each character. Plus, I love all the different bats that they have. Like the Boomerang Bro, of course, just uses his boomerang. The Piantas just straight up use a palm tree. I don't know how they managed to carry that around. Or there's Toadsworth that just uses his cane. Psst, yeah, I don't tell an old man what to do. He can bat with whatever he wants. Donkey Kong doesn't even use a bat, he just punches the thing. Now that might hurt the old knuckles after a while. And then the visuals, HUD, and sound effects all make you feel like you're in a baseball timeline of Mario. Everything is very fitting. You even hear the organ play in many of the transitions, which is a neat touch. And the team names here, they're not just like Team Mario versus Team Bowser, but they have created original team names, logos, and branding that are reminiscent of actual sports teams. You know, we got the Mario Sunshines, the Yoshi Islanders, or the Bowser Flames. But what's really cool is that your team name will actually change depending on what other players you chose for your team. For example, let's say Luigi is your captain, and you get the team name the Luigi Gentleman. But if on your team you decide to pick the characters Bowser, Toad, Boo, and King Boo, then your team name will change to the Luigi Mansioneers as a reference to, obviously, Luigi's Mansion. Okay, this may be a minor feature that I'm blabbering on about for this long, but I just want to highlight the more minor details that adds to this game's charm. And that's basically the gist of Mario Superstar Baseball. Honestly, a pretty great game for what it was back then. But don't you worry, our baseball journey doesn't end here, because this game got a sequel in 2008 called Mario Super Sluggers. Now this game is in very much the same vein as the original, so let's take a look at some of the differences, as well as what's the same in this sequel. This game once again starts with an intro cutscene, and this one is pretty sweet too. Like the first game, it also shows a lot of the game mechanics here, and it even has a similar song in it. It's not nearly as long and doesn't have a storyline in it this time, but it's still a cool intro. The game takes place on Baseball Island this time, as it's called. It's a pretty great setting here. It's like a bunch of little islands all mushed together. And all these different islands are the different fields in this game. So let's select a field and see how this sequel plays out. Honestly, the core gameplay of the sequel is very similar to the first game. But that's not a bad thing, as both of these games play out very well. But the big difference here that is very apparent is, of course, that this game is on the Wii this time. But because of that, you already know the game is going to be controlled by this, not this. Yes, while batting and pitching work the same as the previous game, you know, with charging up your bats and pitches, the way you do so is by swinging the Wii remote and not pressing A. And you know, it's a fine way to do it, but these controls kinda haven't aged the best. Because your position or how hard you swing or pitch doesn't even make a difference. You can literally do this, and it acts as a full swing. They basically just replaced the A presses of the first game with shaking your Wii remote. The Wii Sports Baseball had better motion controls than this. And then the run action is now done by just shaking the Wii remote too. So the entire time after you hit your ball, you're just shaking so your batters run faster. And when you're in the field, you're just shaking the whole time as you run towards the ball. Yeah, so clearly I wasn't a huge fan of how the motion controls worked in this game. But let's talk about something else now, because in this game, the characters have a few different moves that they can all do. And they're pretty nutty, just look at this one. Yeah, you can literally throw up your teammate to catch the ball when it would have been a home run. Now, if you thought stealing stars was frustrating in Mario Party, just wait until your friend steals a literal grand slam from you. Yeah, then there's just a lot more crazy moves that you can do in this game in general. Like, if you have two players in the outfield that have chemistry, then you can do this super throw that's like a literal rocket to one of the bases. And then I feel like there's just a lot more character-specific moves in this game compared to the first one. And the first one already had a lot to begin with. Also, if your batters have chemistry, then you can also throw these items to try and mess with the players in the outfield, but I find they don't really do much most of the time. Okay, and then they got this new batting UI here. You know, this like little red dot now. And I do like this better than the first game. While the first game's UI wasn't bad, this small addition just makes it a lot more easy to see exactly where you're hitting the ball. But what makes it harder to see is the new pitcher camera. See, when you're pitching in single player, the camera goes behind you to, I guess, give you a more clear view, but in reality, it does the opposite. I don't need to see my player pitch, I need to see the base I'm trying to pitch to so I can, you know, aim better. This camera is a downgrade, unfortunately. But okay, to end this section on a more positive note, I'll say that this game possibly has the best loading screen of all time. A lot of things were expanded upon from the first game as well. Like the character roster here is actually even more insane in this rendition. And the first game, it was already crazy enough as is. But just look at the selection here. Now there's even characters like Wiggler, Blooper, or the Princess Babies. Okay, maybe not them. However, they added a bunch of random Donkey Kong characters too, like Critter, Funky Kong, whoever this is, and my favorite addition to this game, King K. Rool. It is just so awesome to play as these Donkey Kong Country characters that rarely make it out of their own series into other games. This is how you do a character roster, guys. The next thing is the fields. Again, the first game already had a great selection of them with unique themes and stage hazards. In this game, well, there's simply more stages with more interesting hazards. I mean, yeah, again, they just topped the number of fields from before, and the themes are really good here once again. We got a Luigi's Mansion Stadium that has the creepier vibe and the mansion itself from that game here. And then they took the Double Dash track, Daisy's Cruiser, and just made that into another field too. Plus, a new feature in this game is that now the fields also have a different day and night variance, which just gives the players even more choices. And as for the other modes in this game, they're literally the same options as in the first game, but there's a few tweaks in some of them, so let's look over the changes. The single player main story for this game is actually a lot different than in the first. And it's actually a big downgrade from the last game too. At first glance though, it actually seems pretty great and does have a lot of cool things going for it, I'll say that. It starts with this awesome intro cutscene with just Bowser Jr. crashing into the island, trying to take it over and whatnot. So the only way to stop him is by playing him in baseball, of course. Well, that's Mario logic for ya. You start off as just Mario this time, and you have to go around to all these different sections of Baseball Island, or wherever this is, to recruit more members of your baseball team. And the different areas correspond with the different captains in this game. This is actually cool, because you get a few mini hub worlds you can fully walk around in this time. Then you just have to find all the characters and do a mini challenge for them, and they'll join your team. And once you have a full team of 9, you can challenge Bowser Jr. at any time. Now I know that does sound good on paper, so then what is so bad about this mode? Well, it's the fact that there's not a lot of baseball games in this, well, baseball game. Seriously, the only 2 full baseball games you play here are against the final boss Bowser Jr. and the real final boss Bowser. That's it, and those are at the very end too. So the rest of this challenge mode then becomes doing these characters' baseball challenges to unlock them. And they're not even good challenges either, they're way too short and easy. Throw a charge pitch. I did it. And then on the hub world, they just add all these gimmicky motion control mini games that you have to do. Like, these are so basic and boring, just let me play baseball instead of some point and click Mario adventure. Oh my god, that's literally what this mode is, to be honest. Because you need to also scavenge for certain items to progress past certain areas. So yeah, it's exactly like that. Yeah, it's kind of a shame because with a few tweaks, this could have been the ultimate single-player Mario Baseball mode. But as it stands, it feels more like a tutorial with all these quick and easy challenges. But anyways, on to the other modes here, because now, how about we look at Toy Field? Because this version is a lot of fun too. Probably the first difference you'll see here is that there is no pitcher this time. This I actually like though, because it was kind of annoying in the first game when you were stuck as the pitcher, since you'd have to run from so far away to get the ball while the other players started in the outfield. But now everyone can freak out in the outfield as the player bats. And then a pitching machine combined with slots will determine the speed and the direction of the pitch. Then, also in this version, the play doesn't stop when the first person gets the ball. They actually leave a bit of time for everyone to, well, wrestle for it, and whoever has the ball after this timer ends is next up to bat. And they also gave you this new tackle move to make this part more interesting too. Yeah, this version is probably just as good as in the first game. Can't say one is better than the other. They're both great party modes. And then the last mode we gotta talk about here is the minigames. There's a few of them that are actually brought back from the first game, but with various improvements to those minigames, so that's actually pretty cool. Like, you know, you don't have to take turns in wall ball, for example. And the new games here, I'd say in general, are a bit better than the first game too. I mean, look at this pinball minigame. This one's actually a lot of fun. Some of them are pretty weird, like this painting game here that literally has nothing to do with baseball. This could actually just be a Mario Party minigame, but still, the minigames are decent this time. So now that we've fully looked at both of these games here, the question now comes back to, which is the better game? While at the end of the day, these games are very similar mechanically, I think out of the two, I prefer the original over Super Sluggers. While Sluggers had more characters, fields, and just like more mechanics to it, I prefer the controls and the single player mode in the original more than the sequel. And you know, Mario Superstar Baseball just has a certain charm to it as well that I can't quite put my finger on. But still, the core experience of both of these games are very similar and both are awesome games. Maybe we'll see a sequel eventually, but for now, I'll say these games are very underrated.